Hey, what's going on, everyone? Astrology Eric Rosen here. Welcome to Celestial Conversations from Chaos to Clarity. This is the weekly horoscope where I take a look at the astrology and give you the steps that I see that we can do to take those innovative steps forward because we are out of the tornado. We've been deposited into the land of Oz, and welcome to 2025, motherfuckers. This is where I like to do this horoscope because this is a highly creative time. And so this is really especially for those creatives, those entrepreneurs, those high vibe mindset people that see the writing on the wall but want to know how to pivot and like actually take the steps to innovate your life, to rise above the chaos, because you've already unplugged for the matrix. You already see the stuff going on. And you already see that the world is a changing, as Bob Dylan said. And so this is for those that want to really be on the forefront, that upper echelon on a spiritual journey of how you can maximize your potential during this time. And so I like to lend my cosmic wisdom for a little bit and do this horoscope. At this time, I don't believe in doing daily horoscopes. I think there's too many astrologers that pimp themselves out in that way and put out too much. Ask me how I know. I used to be one of them. But if you find value in this video, please like and subscribe it. I would like to grow the YouTube channel more, and especially just full transparency to create more astrology readings. And speaking of which, shameless promo, if you do want to book an astrology reading, that link will be down below. So it's not just like natal chart stuff, right? That's also being able to like go deep into all the different layers I like to look at. Even the subconscious ones, like the progress chart, the solar arc charts, getting into the transits and how things are hitting. And the way that I work as an astrologer too, and if you watch this video, if you've watched me long enough, I'm not afraid to channel what I see. And, I don't believe in like piecemealing together like the astrology, because to me astrology is a tapestry, it's a rhythm of an energy. And so I like to kind of break the whole paradigms of just being like, well, my Jupiter is here and so it means this because this thing said so. And it's like, well, that's just another program, right? Like astrology is the energy of the soul. It's a language of who you are in your chart, but then it's also that language of the universe that also speaks collectively too, to the tapestry of what's going on. And thank God for that, actually, that the divine gave us that, because, as I mentioned in a talk that I gave yesterday on the astrology around relationships here that we're in and coming up, it's kind of like the astro weather, it's the true journalism that we have left. Shout out to David Palmer, the Leo King, who was my teacher. And he was just talking the other day about how in the helio chart, which is the view from the sun instead of Earth, it's still Neptune and Pisces. And so it is a reminder, that at any point in time we can sabotage and sink our own ship if we start buying into that fear-based stuff of the media. And so still, be on red alert for that stuff. And that even if you don't buy into it, it is being careful about what you're consuming, because we can't be on guard 24/7 with the energy, right? And I think that's why we try to vibe our highest, and even for some put up energetic protection as we're going about this world, because it's Pluto and Aquarius, there's intense energies everywhere. And so it's like letting just a little bit of friction into what feels more like your soul's purpose, your mission, why you're here on this planet during this time. It slips past the guards of the mind, and it's kind of like fuel for the zombie mind, just like zoning out on something that's not really worthwhile content. It's not really fitting your value system, but then the subconscious mind takes it and starts producing the stories and the images, and that's what the algorithms and media and stuff like that want. So just a reminder to really be on guard for what you're taking in during this time. So also too, if you want to get that astrology ebook that I did, you just want to take a look at your own natal chart and just like kind of like learn the placements. And it's a little piecemealy, but I think if you take it and like put it into more of a map concept of understanding yourself, it's a good thing. It's just not getting, it's not marrying that, that's like, that's like it's like learning astrology and being kind of Amish and, going on your first date or something, but you're like leaving the Amish religion, right? You're leaving behind what it was like to pre-knowing your astrology, but it's like you don't buy the cow, you just like sample the milk, you go on the date. It's not the person that you marry, right? So astrology is way deeper than that. So I like this week. I like it because we are in that new moon energy in Taurus. We had that back on the 29th. We're going to have Venus starting this week going back into Aries. And so it re-enters Aries where it started its retrograde. I think it was the beginning of March. Yeah. So, we're traveling back and covering the ground of that post-shadow Aries, but this time it's going to be way different because it's actually going to be crossing Neptune. And so it's really important to know ourselves, what we're doing, what we're creating, because otherwise it can get really schizophrenic quick and foggy. But that's not you. You're going to find a way. I'm going to tell you how to get through that. And then also, this is the last few days that we're going to have of all planets direct. We got Pluto going retrograde on May 4th. So Pluto in Aquarius, May the 4th be with you. It's actually very fitting, the whole Star Wars theme that I'll get into. And then Mercury and Chiron are going to meet in Aries. Damn. Especially by the end of the week on the 6th. So we'll talk about that too. But, the other thing I want to say too, before I forget with this astrology, is that we're going to be seeing the asteroid Ceres with that North Node in Pisces this whole week. And so actually the North Star all the way through this, remember spiritual hygiene, right? Remember to like take care of yourself. I mentioned kind of like protecting your energy, but it's more than that. Ceres deals with that self-care aspect of things. So it's making sure that our subconscious is operating in a very gentle, compassionate, spiritual, humble, empathetic way. That you could say the self-care is being really self-aware about like what is the vision, the beliefs, like how we're seeing things, to make sure that we're also passing on that compassion to others. And then it even shows up in our energy field. It's like it's a 24/7 job. It's like even when we're sleeping, we're going to bed at night, right? It's being very intentional about your sleep, about sleep cycles, honoring energy cycles, right? Like if you need to rest, nap, meditate, do it. If you need to show up, you've got that spark, that divine spark of inspiration, go do something with it, that's positive and not a pattern and self-sabotaging, which, we got to make sure that we're getting out of those two, because not this week, but on the 12th, we're going to see a crazy full moon in Scorpio. And so, ouch, like it hurts if you're still hanging on to like some addictive, like vice pattern type energy, especially if it's like something outside of you that's like trying to like give some spiritual high or rush. And so we have to start saying a final goodbye, if we haven't already, to those things that we hold on to. And everyone has their things, like, and as harmless as they may seem, it's like the whole understanding of Pisces is it disrupts the natural spiritual flow of things. Like when you like need that thing to kind of like anchor you, and it's like letting the divine anchor you and like letting your creative side flow. Because even though Venus is leaving Pisces, we still have Saturn here at the end of Pisces. It is going to be ingressing into Aries this month on the 24th, but not yet. So there is still like this fatherly can-do attitude of like harvesting and creating our own reality, but it's a very spiritual reality as that. And so that's what we've really been navigating for these past almost 2.5 years of Saturn in Pisces, is how to make sure that the reality that we're creating is being a little Jedi-like, that it's being the kind that's like empathetic to ourselves, to others, right? It's like kind of learning from the whole Anakin Skywalker saga, where it's like, he was irresponsible with that spiritual connection in himself, right? And he just like went too far, very Pisces like. But, Venus coming into Aries, I think, is going to remind us we have values that we need to initiate, that we need to act upon, right? Like we're in this new moon energy in Taurus that was square that opposition between Mars and Leo, Pluto and Aquarius. So really it's the access point of personal happiness versus like what's going on with all the weird world shit, right? But finding balance, like not putting your head under a rock, but also like not letting the fear inform the actions that you're taking in your own personal life, especially around happiness and creativity. And so that opposition is over, but being in that new moon energy that we had, that's really about going, okay, like here it comes. Like the sun later this month meets with Uranus for the last time. And so it's not about leaping to a rooftop that you can't do because you don't believe in yourself fully. You've got to really have the confidence and the knowing behind yourself and the connections. Like things have to be physical, right? It's got to be this like physical, well, of course I can make this next leap in my spiritual evolution and what it is that I'm creating in life because I've got the momentum behind me. And that's what's tough about Uranus and Taurus, is that it creates chaos around our value systems and then having to change, and around money systems and our relationships, that we like to fixate on and try to find higher quality. But it's where we have to learn to like wield the cyclone energy ourselves, right? Where we like kind of like lean into that eye of the storm energy, or as I like to say on this show, it's like rise above the chaos. And so it's a lot about how do we see that, okay, yeah, like there's very disruptive energy economically and like the footing's not there. But I mean, rule number one, like make sure that you're not using this astrology to blame something outside of you, because this is where you self-sabotage, you shoot holes in your own boat and sink your progress and your momentum by not taking full responsibility, for your life, of what you're creating. And that doesn't mean that if bad shit's happening that you don't create boundaries, with others, right? And that's going to be more of a full moon and Scorpio thing that we're very much going to be revisiting. But it's how do you progress forward? It's not about going backwards, right? Venus and Aries, like we have the values that we've been learning about and innovating to manifest with and act on, but it is going to be here with Neptune. And so I think one, like for some people, the general populace, this could be a massive, blindside, right? Where it's like more of the creepy side of Venus, where it's like my values is more about possessions that make me feel good about myself, but it's like covering up the hidden part of the identity that isn't really like the full expression of the avatar spiritually that we're meant to walk into, because it's going to be more about spiritual presence of the embodiment of the values. It's not about like what you wear, or like the makeup, or even just the expression, the exact identification of the expression that's spiritual. Like it's like spiritual buzzwords, like reminds me like Pee Wee Herman's Playhouse. They said the magic word, like they said cacao, they said tantra, they said kundalini, and it's like, who gives a fuck? It's like, it's about presence. And so that can be hard. We've got cameras, social media. It's like, it can be a very deceptive element. Like some people could really use it and create this like very Venus, Pisces, desirable, seductive, like, ooh, come here, like I've got the value, like I've got the goods. And so you need to be able to make sure that your bullshit meter is like at an all-time like level of discernment. But it's not about the hyper-vigilance out here, because that creates a battle that we don't need to be in. Spiritual warfare, like this person's not spiritual because they're at this vibration. It's more so about how to make sure that you're embodying your own value system and kind of just like sticking to yourself and that expression, and like you're in the embodiment of your values and your own frequency, that because you refuse to self-deceive by, it could be anything. It could be ignoring Venus on Aries, just about face in Aries. This is what's going on in my relationships, with my money, my creations. Like, it's very simple and straightforward. Like, there's no fibbing, right? It's meant to really elevate ourselves with a new level of honesty. And I think the honesty, the best way to look at it is like, look at everything physical in your life and what was going on the past 3 days. How's your, you could say, schedule, but your direction moving forward for the next 3 days, and being really honest about, is the effort, the action, like actually being put in. And it's also not about having like a fear-based death grip of like needing the results, because that would be getting into the whole like freak out show of like currency money systems, that with being in this new moon in Taurus, but then the full moon in Scorpio that's coming, which is actually going to be with the Sun Uranus almost dead conjunct. And so it brings up a lot of unpredictability in these areas. And it is a full moon that's going to make a trine over to the remaining Pisces energy too, with Saturn North Node. And so, you know, it's about release, it's about endings, it's about spiritually what needs to, like, in a very beautiful, harmonious way, actually need to end, you know, where it's actually like, sounds crazy, but it's like grandma's on an oxygen tank and she's in pain and we're out of painkillers, you know, like it's a sweet release, you know, for her to go when she's ready. And so it's like that with currency systems, the economy, broken systems, broken value systems. Like, there's no more painkillers, right? It would be like, there's no more money to print. We're out of ink. There's no more deals to strike. Like, it could be, you know, and I'm not necessarily predicting this, but it's like, okay, the tariffs, like, thing, whatever is happening there is like kind of working, but not. And actually having to be like, okay, well, cool, we gave the zombie Frankenstein a heartbeat, but it still can't move. Like, it can't move. Like, it's not going to go through this next 18 years of Pluto in Aquarius, you know? And so we're going to be reviewing that too, right? Now, for the next 6 months, because Pluto's that outer planet that it's direct for 6 months and then it retrogrades for 6 months. And so we're going to be looking at, okay, where have the obsessions been with trying to fix something in some crazy far out there way that's like taking like a hive mind to get obsessed with like the same functionality of thinking outside the box, but it's not really being honest. Like, the premise, the thesis is off, right? Pluto in Aquarius brings up, sure, you can solve some really powerful issues in the world and think outside the box, but you've got to make sure that the boundaries of it, like the scope is understood. Like, you got to be real about like what the variables are. And so this brings up the review of like, where has there been too much certainty in the collective, whether it's like, oh, it's all going to work out, or the other extremes of like, oh no, it's all going to go bad. And it's like, Pluto in Aquarius reveals the surprises that we don't think about, right? And so we'll be navigating that for a long time. But with that retrograde happening on May the 4th, and the whole May the 4th be with you Star Wars theme, it's like there is a force field energy of Pluto in Aquarius where it's just like, okay, like, do you know how to work with the force? Do you know how to work with like the way that we can measure energy in Aquarius, like electromagnetism, right? Do you know how to command your vibe, your frequency, your energy? So a lot of that, I think, number one is going, okay, here's this thing happening in the world, or this, you know, news thing, and it's like, all right, how does this inform what I'm doing though, and how I can help, and like where does it fit? You know, like, it clicks fast. And this might seem like a strange metaphor, but it's like, no, you don't have, not everyone has to try on the Cinderella glass slipper, or you don't have to try on all the glass slippers. You just know what fits. You know what your value system is, because with Uranus and Taurus season, Venus on Neptune, Pluto in Aquarius, right? Like, this is about knowing how to express out into the world what your value system is. And like, that's your dedication. And so if anything, it's not even an obsession of expressing that value, because it's more like the potency that we get in kind of like more of a gentle, self-loving, self-appreciating way of humble gratitude, of going like, wow, like, we have fought some crazy battles, especially since 2020, to get to this point of going, I feel empowered with what I'm able to do and create. And I've done so much healing, and I've seen what is deceptive and not deceptive, and what's for me, not for me, my values, not for my values. And so it can sort of be like this really deep self-appreciating moments that we can have of just how far that we've come, and it's like this very subtle, the angels are present, it's this very angelic Neptune, Pisces appreciation for self. But then also, like, take a breath and like keep going too, like keep creating. It's Taurus season. It's like, keep the momentum going. Venus wants that momentum. So we can't get scared with it being on Neptune, or get triggered, whether that's something going on in the world, the media, and to let it start informing things, or, even bastardizing like the beauty of like what it is that we're creating, or even our own self-worth, because like the boat tips over, it's like, okay, the boat tipped over. Like, can you like be innocent and playful with it, and not like make it so fucking serious too, because a lot of this with Saturn coming into Aries this month too is kind of like, is there really much to do other than just like keep up with the responsibilities that are working, that don't need fixing, and to create with our best energy of what we feel called to do, and to take those steps, and to not also bum rush it to end game the results, especially from like a money financial standpoint, or a relationship, or needing it to be the forever that like makes us feel a false sense of illusionary security through going through insecure times on earth, because it's insecure, because you have to unbuckle things to like let the old go, like you got to pull the fucking car seat out of the back of the car that the pissed off baby is like been riding in, and is like triggered as fuck because it doesn't like how it's going. And so this is a metaphor for where we get triggered, and we get upset about like how it's going, but from a spiritual standpoint, it's like really immature, because it's lacking gratitude, it's lacking spiritual conviction in ourselves, it's lacking sometimes even just the remembrance of the facts of this is what we have, and then the foresight to even go, the longer I dwell in this frequency, the more it fucks things up, and then there's the compassion and empathy that's needed. And so it's these cycles where maintaining our frequency is like the biggest thing, with Pluto going offline and not having that power to feel like we can exert it so much. It's more about kind of an internal quiet knowing, and that Jedi meditative energy, and the flicker of the spark, the electricity within. Most people won't even feel it. That's the crazy thing, with the outer planets when they change signs, especially the furthest one out there with Pluto, where it's like people don't fully connect the dots of why they feel different. It's just kind of like going through the world with like a spiritual amnesia, forgetting about the occult and the power and the mysteries of the universe that have shrouded this world, but that are being like unveiled. And so it's like that Jedi part of being okay with also like, you're not the all-seeing, all-knowing eye, but like you work for the light, You know, you put your best vibe out there and just do things that are spiritually humble and like protective oriented, because the biggest thing to protect besides the obvious of, you know, being safe and secure and the understanding of like where things are going, not even so much like the obsession of trying to make it stable because it's not stable. It's going into this direction of expression, of expressing like our best stuff, like, because that's like what creates a sense of stability, because it's a deep trust in self of like, of course I can do this, right? Like not having to like freak out like at every little sound. Like that's Pluto and Aquarius. It's like every little sound, every time you hear Trump speak, right? Every time you hear this group over here, Elon Musk, every time you know, see this trending thing on TikTok, you know, whatever it is, right? It's like not being triggered, not being afraid by the things that come up. And that's especially a Mercury crossing Chiron thing too, right? And it would be so petty too. Mercury's the smallest planet, right? So with the crossing Chiron, like it's been doing, you know, throughout the year since 2019, it's a reminder that like during this astrology, it's like, don't let that be the trigger. Like the mind is gonna bastardize and see just the deformity, but it's like through the lens of the ego. It's like we're seeing through the eyes of the wounded ego. It's not really factual. It's not the spiritual facts of what the guides or angels would say that it is. They're just kind of like, are you done with the tantrum? Are you done seeing it that way? That's not what it is. That's your human side being informed for feedback of going, oh, okay, that's where we're still working on our mastery. That's where we're still training to be a better Jedi, and that we're not perfect. It's South Node and Virgo, right? Like, not about the perfection, not about the criticism. Honestly, the biggest like reality shift through all of this is really just an awareness lens of not being hyper self-critical or critical to the world. Everything changes, you know, when we see it from a bigger, brighter, better spiritual horizons of all things are possible. And that's kind of the teachings of Saturn and Pisces. It's like, of course your dreams are possible. Like give those life, you know, and commit to those and be in integrity with that. And so a lot of this week is to thread the eye of the needle, as, you know, whether it's like sometimes we're not feeling good or we don't have a lot of energy, or, you know, the world's doing this thing and there's like hiccups, you know, it's like, reminds me of like going on stage like Elvis, but then you've got the hiccups. Like, are you going to cancel the show? You know, like this is not about using anything to go, well, I can't do it because it's not perfect because this thing is going on. It's like, what do you mean? Like, this is like the energy is perfect. Like it's ripe for the picking for us to create and express the pure potential of what we have as a soul, of going, okay, I'm not all seeing, I'm not all knowing. I don't know what it's going to be exactly. I'm not going to let the ego hijack it. But that also is like saying, like, our souls are equipped to be able to channel that creative force, the Star Wars energy of letting that melody speak through you of your creations. And so everything that is not destructive, sabotaging, worried, fear-based, that's either sustaining something that's working or innovating and building upon something that's already working and just making it, you know, better, stronger from a place of valuable service to solve issues, that's the thing to put the energy into. Like that's the expression of the light, you know? So some people are going to be freaking out this week, but that's going to be mostly the people that they're addicted to it. You know, they're addicted to the sensationalism. And so they're going to have to learn to start detoxing it when the full moon rolls around, or numb out. But for those that are walking the spiritual path, and especially if you're feeling that like creative entrepreneurial like energy, I would really ask the question, like, what is holding me back? And then the ruse is I wouldn't even like wait for an answer, because whatever it is, it's bullshit. It's an excuse. So don't even like give your mind a second to believe in it. But it's more like a rhetorical question. Like, why not? Like, why not now? Like, why not take the next step? Why not make the next leap that makes sense? I think some of the full moon energy is like, it's tough. It's hard on investments. I think, things that were shoe-ins, even if they were calculated around money flow, investments, maybe even like crypto, it's kind of like the last minute, like Santa's not coming type thing. But it's also a full moon that's opposed Uranus too in Scorpio. So it's like, it's never the thing that you think it's going to be, right? It's the unpredictable. So don't even let me as an astrologer like say it's going to be exactly that, or like pull all your investments or something crazy. It's more so like investing your energy in your creations. Like, this is what it is. It's like the more that you can be in all five senses, and of course even the intuitive sixth sense of that seeing and sensing just energy, the more that we can be in that and be in that feminine flow and the Taurus energy, even though it can be hard because with Uranus and Taurus, like, we're learning that the capacity to feel like good physically in the senses is kind of capped by how regulated the central nervous system is. So that deals with stability on a spiritual level, but then it connects to money and relationships and those types of physical supports, possessions, the things that we need to thrive and build. But then it starts from a knowing within, like, spiritually speaking, it's like there's enough for the collective. But the disruption of Uranus is like showing where the value systems have been out of alignment since 2018, personally, collectively, to show that there's been like an imbalance. There's been like disruptions that were hidden all along, and so it's just about bringing it to the surface. So just know that abundance, prosperity is meant to look different during this time. Like, it's not going to look like the ego's identification. Like, if you're someone that's heard anything about abundance is coming for the light workers, or prosperity, or this or that, or you even have big dreams that require prosperity, don't marry the first thing that makes you think that it's going to be like this way of like what abundance or prosperity looks like. Is in its most basic form, it's like Chiron in Aries with Mercury crossing, and it's like, it's not the identification of what you think. And then the basics of Uranus in Taurus, like, it's not going to be how you think it's going to be in the physical fashion. Like, it always surprises us, right? So that's why any moment since 2019 with Chiron in Aries, but then Uranus that's definitely been in Taurus too, right? Even before Chiron, it's like the moments that feel the most prosperous and abundant is when the ego gets out of the way and you're not expecting it to be what it is or it goes a certain way. And so now what we're having to detox on a very gentle level too from this long spiritual journey that we've all been on is to stop searching for the nostalgia of the high, even the nostalgia through the storytelling. It's time to start to let that go with Saturn at the end of Aries. We're closing the book on that. We're closing the Bible that we created for ourselves of our life story about what was holy and righteous and what wasn't, and the judgments and everything else. Right? It got us to where we are, but it's too heavy to carry forward. Like everything's temporary. It was just cycles. And so that's where that deep appreciation comes in for how far we've come. But we can't wear our spiritual highest and lowest moments, our favorite ones, in a nostalgic way, like they're badges of flair or something that make us pop in that Pisces way, like it would be like giving the guy from Office Space with all his like flair badges like his own spin-off movie. It's like, who's gonna watch that piece of shit, So this is starting to become the time of, it's not about what you've done. No one cares, like people can have empathy for that, especially if the sensitivities, the emotions are still being worked through. And, knowing that Neptune and Saturn are not done in Pisces, it's like, yeah, how can it be? Because Neptune for sure knows it's coming back into Pisces later this year, but it doesn't mean that we can't live our lives and move forward just because there's sensitivities and there's things that haven't like revealed themselves fully. So with the financial system piece, it's like Taurus understands like we create regardless, of like what is going on with the money stuff, because Taurus is basically the understanding of like, well, we're gonna value something, right? We're not all just gonna turn into the Joker and like light piles of money on fire and just like want to see the world burn, like, right? That's very much like the psychotic energy of like a lower vibration of what Scorpio can be. And so like with Taurus energy, it's more like, okay, yeah, it's chaos, and there's change in the air, but you create anyway. And so I think the biggest thing that we could kind of screw up would be to get too idealistic and go, well, I'm just going to go all in on my dreams and create and like pretend like currency doesn't matter, because as long as the currency system is what it is, that's what it's based upon. And so, that's how things get done. The world still, it operates more on the flow of money than it does like people connections. But that's what Uranus and Taurus teaches, is that it's both, that you need both, that you need to know people and network and know how to like put your value out there, but also like know how the exchange of value works, and that includes currency, so it includes money or crypto or whatever it is, right? So we can't trip out and go, well, I'm just going to create all my dreams, but nor can we like create so much crippling self-doubt in ourselves that we don't create our dreams because we're so worried about money. And that would be like, either one's like too far of an extreme. And so that's what the Taurus energy, the Pisces energy working together, that sextile that's still existing between Saturn and Uranus, it's like, hey, we don't need to like tip this like feeling like Noah's Ark, like, like one way too far the other. It's so funny, I've been mentioning Noah's Ark a lot lately, because I think I saw like a video the other day of someone, a scientist or something, archaeologist maybe, thinks that they know that they found it, or at least the shape of what it would look like buried somewhere. And so this isn't about resurrecting those old codes though either, of like thinking that you've got to make some crazy escape like Noah's Ark, like there's a flood coming. The flood's already came. It's more about letting the waters like help us rise to a higher ground, a higher vibration, and seeing what that new world is that we're going into, and accepting it, and kind of going like, well, fuck, everything used to be land and the bodies of water were here, but now it's a lot more, water, which can literally, I hope I'm not going off the rails here saying this, but it's like kind of a metaphor, for the emotional upheaval that people go through of having trouble discerning or reconciling like the face of this new reality that we're stepping into. And so the inspirational sense would be to be the person that keeps doing their inner spiritual work and then creates from that place of solution orientation to help people that are willing to have that help, right? That are freaking out. I was also just seeing an image of the fucking the priest or pastor or whatever he is from the movie Dogma, that's played by George Carlin, and he's like in there golfing. And so I know it's like they're looking for a new pope, and it's like there's a lot of like religious stuff that's like up in this astrology. And so just know that religion's gonna try to have this like everything's fine attitude. Like, just remember what the book said, just remember what the prophet said of whatever the religion is. And so just be on the lookout that like there's going to be religions like trying to like dupe us that everything's fine and that we can just like sit on our hands. You can't sit on your hands during this time, and I don't think anyone that's here watching this like believes that. But we also got to make sure that we don't create that like in a spiritual sense too, of like just a surrender that everything's gonna be okay, because it's like North Node Saturn is more like hey, like it's always okay in the end when you take responsibility, like for like your spiritual side of yourself, like your soul, to like kind of bring it more into the physical of expression of like, well, the divine gave you a body, they gave you hands and a brain and a heart, and so it's like you use these things rather than like letting it rot. And even if it is times where, we need that peaceful, more Pisces, Saturn reflection, it's putting some boundaries on it too, with how much like time that we're spending and like more reclusive energy, and just like at least it's using it to like become better spiritually, to develop a plan to initiate going forward, because really that's the best way to like use more of that like hermit alone time right now, is to kind of cast the net out to spiritually the vision, and to keep that alive, and to keep those consistent elements out of like what it can become of like the vision. But then it's like once Saturn comes into Aries, it's like it's going to end anything that was like toxic, that was out of a book, like even a religious commitment, like I have to do this vision, this is my purpose, my life is based upon this. And it's like, it's kind of weird, because it's like Saturn North Node is like teaching us, yes, you have a spiritual destiny, but do you know how to properly be in integrity with like true surrender, that like the divine like has a better plan, has a better sense of knowing, and it hasn't revealed itself fully yet. Right? And it's going to be pretty synonymous with like what it really is, as like more disclosure and disruption happens for this old reality status quo it's already ended. But it's more about the acceptance of it and seeing more of like the details of like what it's going to be to heal from what we've been going through, which is the positive side of that Mercury Chiron. And so then once it's really clear and what to do, and the Saturn coming into Aries, that it's like, oh, now run, but it's also like, it's weird too, because it's like, I'd say it this way, but it's like there's handicaps a little bit. It's like Saturn coming into Aries, but then it's like in a retrograde back, and Chiron's in Aries. It's kind of like run, Forrest, run. So it's like, it's good. It's an inspirational, like kind of becoming in the making, but like the braces haven't broke off yet. So, we might have to like take our licks in terms of, even as we're creating our best thing, like remember, like the mind's been deconditioned to think, oh, it's going to be like this way. And so sometimes the bruises come from the letdown of the expectations, the disappointments, like even like a lot of the like the sage eldership spiritually on this planet too, from what I found, is like kind of even more, and it's like it's very much like a surrender mode, but and so it's like the mantle of like the warrior, like knowing what to do and the commitment and the tenacity to take action from even the spiritual elder side of the mastery that we're all invited to step into is kind of more like it's the healing. It's Chiron and Aries, it's still there. So even when we start to go into a world, especially into next year with Saturn, Neptune, and Aries, it's still got Chiron. It's not gonna make its first ingress into Taurus until 2027. So I think we just need to kind of remember that it's tempering expectations of the ego doesn't mean like being like Eeyore, like why bother, like oh bother, like being depressed, Neptune and Aries, especially when Saturn like joins it, because like that's the hard part too. It's like there's gonna be sadness. Like let's get real. Like I know people spiritually are like excited for the new world, right? But that's a lot of like, in some ways the excitement of the new world's already here, right? Pluto and Aquarius, in some ways like Uranus and Taurus is like, cool, those energies can work together and you can create in this new world and just see what it's going to be and roll the dice, of that attachment. But part of the new world's Uranus and Gemini, and it's like, is that it going to be any more fun than Taurus? I think it is when you're around the right people, right? When you're having the right conversations and putting your attention in the right places in the world. So from an initiating standpoint, getting things going, the identification of it, who we're becoming spiritually on its like rawest, realest sense, like just remember, like there's still that healing element. There's still that bruise that's there, that's like wherever it came from, wherever it originated from, like there's all the deformity of thinking that it needs to look and be a certain way. And so some of the sadness is just saying goodbye to that old world, too, where it's like, it's humble new beginnings of the sadness of the letting go, but then it's also like the excitement that comes as we create more space of honoring that, like don't be the person that, holds it together at the funeral and then just like goes back to life as if it's normal after the funeral, because that's nonsense. It's not authentic, because it's not about going back to like what it was, right? So we have to be okay with like truly processing our emotions during this time still. Saturn wants that. And it gets really intense with the full moon in Scorpio. So it's like the emotional upheaval, the processing, it's not so much about leading with the reaction of emotions. It's just honoring these cycles of how we feel, right? Just like very basic human stuff, but it's not really an optional thing in order to like move into this new world and create, because with the Saturn Pisces energy working together, it's like in order to create your best stuff, you have to be able to feel, you have to be able to sense spirit. So if you've got the stagnant, backed up emotions that back up in Pisces, with Saturn, it's like that's where there's work to do. There's things to deal with, and you have business with the endings and the release work, and it's not about forcing it or let's hurry up and just wrap this up so we can move on, because that's not in the flow of the Pisces energy. So I wouldn't sleep during this time either. Like, not like, yeah, I was like sleep, get your 6-8 hours or whatever. But what I mean is like sleep on, I would say especially this next couple of weeks, even though I'm doing this just till the 6th, but till the full moon in Scorpio, because there can always be like an excuse that's like wrapped in it, like hidden self-doubt of like not owning the full worth and value of what we can create during this time. So I would use this week to not push hard, but keep creating and don't sleep on the possibilities of what you can do. Well, let the world inform you about what it's going to be first, and You know, it's like this thing like idle hands are the devil's playground, you know. The anti-self, like if you've ever heard of like Wateko, it's like that force that gets us to not create, right? Like Aubrey Marcus talked a lot about that. I'm not like a huge fan, but some of the stuff's good. It's like, it's the expression of our creativity, right? Like that's the Garden of Eden that is Taurus. It's just, it's basic astrology stuff where it's like we become better and we feel better whenever we get out of these like addictive cycles that like hold us down of like it's shit, And so it's like, it's shit, it's addictive, it's a cycle, it's a pattern, it's hidden. No one likes to talk about it because we want to hide it or whatever. But the full moon in Scorpio is like, nope, got to deal with it. So I would just deal with it now. And what's the easiest way to deal with it? I don't think it's like, needing to create some type of like fake divine intervention, like creating like some intervention. Like, I've got to deal with this. It's more so about what intuitively are you led to that feels like a healthier way of change in life to open up the channels more for creative energy coming in. So it's, it could be the addiction to stuff that's just like not valuable, but it looks valuable. You want it to be valuable, but it's not. The value is in us. It's vibrating through us. It's that energy. It's fucking Thor that was connected to lightning all along, but then eventually he found a way to have to overcome tragedy to express it. It's Captain America that the strength was in him all along of his heart. He just needed his body and his muscles to like catch up, So it's like, it's always been there. We've just been waiting for the timing, the technology, right? Like, this brings up AI again. I won't go too deep into that, but I promise you that the places that people that feel like they have something that they are meant to bring to this world as a gift, if you feel like you haven't been able to do it, in some ways, tech, AI, or at least the way that connects us to people and community and just those connections, like this technological upgrade, can rise above those obstructions. And so that's why using Saturn and Uranus is like, have the vision and the dream clear about like what you want to create, while simultaneously being really detached from it in that place of surrender, and then going, okay, like, this is a hard one, because this is the most beautiful, magical spiritual addiction to break, is having to go, does the vision actually connect to the value systems and connect it to what we're doing now? Because if we can't see it, if we can't see how like that can actually be real, like how that could work, then it's probably a pipe dream. And so it's not that vision, that dream won't ever happen. It's just like, not anytime soon. I hate to burst the bubble, but it's like, we still have to get through the rest of this year, 2026. And then some of us might feel so exhausted by 2027 and grateful. We're kind of like, I'm actually just really glad the dream was more humble and simple, because, that was exhausting to fight for the dream that got ingrained into the conscious mind of like Hollywood and reality TV and just all the fake, basically satanic shit. I say satanic because, to me, like worshiping, this lifestyle like sex, drugs, rock and roll, money, power, that's of the flesh, and so the full moon will expose that to be like, hey, like, let's get in spiritual harmony and integrity with what you're actually committed to. Like, do you see, like, is this actually good for your long run? Is this sustainable, right? So this is gonna, There's going to be very much like, if you've got issues with, you know, that your money situation, your values, relationships are whack, it's time to like pray for guidance and like kind of like, you know, release the program of the toxicity that they got attached to it in that way, right? Like, it sucks because it's like, we didn't ever have a Star Wars movie where it was like, what happens when, you know, if like some Jedis got addicted to like, I don't know, like opiates or narcotics or something in the recovery, you know. I laugh, but it's an uncomfortable laugh too, because there's a lot of spiritual people out there, you know, where it's like the attachments and the addictions piece, like we don't stay fully connected to the highest vibrations, because the longer those things linger that don't carry the value and the substance that makes sense for what we're creating, it becomes an obstruction. You know, it's like the, you know, it reminds me of like the guy that made the rings and like Lord of the Rings, all my metaphors, right? It's like he, you know, he had his thing. He's like, I have to prove it to the world. I have to prove I'm the greatest. I have to leave my legacy. And so that was his obsession. And so the team around him worked, you know, tirelessly and created the rings. And, you know, it all seemed well and good. It's like, let's get the job done. Let's create something great. But then his self-undoing was his obsession, his addiction to how it had to be. He had to be the greatest elf ever. He had to leave his legacy. And so what we're going to be finding during this time is how overblown the sensational things around legacy, purpose, destiny, all this stuff, like, because it got broadcast as like a vision of what it is. And it's like, you should already be living it. You'd say it, but you're behind if you're not already living it. You embody it, you're present. It's just, it fucking just is there. And so a lot of it's too about the soul level appreciation and acceptance for living that, and going check the ego about how it was supposed to look for the glam job of it. That the understanding of like Saturn Capricorn energy is that others recognize you for your achievements and give you the trophy. Like, when you seek it, they show this in so many movies, when you seek it, that's always the person out of character, authenticity, alignment. Because why does Capricorn square Aries energy, which we've got nothing in Capricorn in it and so much coming into Aries? It's because the character, authenticity, the square, it's like the friction, the challenges happen when it's like you're trying to win, but it's not who you really are. This isn't about winning. This isn't about achievement, outcomes. This is about being the highest vibrational spiritual being that you can be. And that the creations, the projects, the visions that you've been giving, stop getting fucking obsessed with the completion of it or that thing, because you fall for the physical and it pulls away the vibrational piece of things, and it pulls out the divine timing of piece of shit. And the mind starts piecing it together. So the way that I help people, like, go deeper on this stuff, it's like, you know, we map out the astrology, but it's also like getting clear about what's the bullshit, what needs to go, what are the blocks, like, let's get in a fucking creation mode. So, you know, you want the wizard on your side, you want Merlin, you want, you know, the sacred space, you know, creative like side of it. It's time to do it now. So if you're thinking about needing an ally, because that's the thing too, it's like, you want to talk about the biggest breakdowns of systems and what it opens up. It's like, if global infrastructure is on shaky ground and there's parts of that that's breaking down, what does that open up for? It opens up for organic, peer-to-peer, community-based networking in its purest spiritual essence, connections of like, how do we all help each other grow? How do we all help each other evolve? How do we help each other with our lessons and find spiritual solutions that are fucking badass as fuck. And to be like, tear the resume in half. The divine essence of like what you're able to do for people, words don't do it justice. It's the embodiment, it's your energy. So if you need help getting there and you want to start to step into that embodied creator mode, first thing to do would be to book a reading, you know, and then we'll see if we're a good fit to work together. But I do my 3 and 6 month, I call them intuitive coaching packages, where I bring all my tools, I bring all the wizard stuff. So it's a fantastic week if we allow it. I hope this sets you in a good direction, because Taurus energy is about the humble appreciation that the fruit grows on the trees, and then eating the golden fruit, eating the apple, enjoying it, not letting it go stale or rot, right? And that's the whole like religious, like subconscious, like warping of the Garden of Eden, right? Oh, like the beautiful feminine energy that just wanted to enjoy what naturally is in plethora and grows on earth. And it's like, I told you not to do that. I told you not to appreciate the valuable things on this earth and to, you know, to take it in through the senses. Even though, like, this might sound crazy, I'll end with this, but it's like, the trees, they grow, the things that grow out of the ground. It's like, where do we go when we die? Our physical bodies in the ground, right? We become compost, animals, like the way the rain falls and then, you know, fertilizes, like, you know, hydrates things so they can grow, but then the clouds like bring up the moisture and absorbs it. Everything works cyclically, right? So I want you to think about it like this. The parts of you that are dying off, that have died, even people that have left your life and it was like a messy death, or even if they've actually left this planet, because this is the thing too, it's appreciating that cycle. It's appreciating that at the highest spiritual level, that our time is limited on this planet, that we came here for reasons beyond mental comprehension, and that we can kind of frame it in belief systems, right? But even those can become prisons if we're not embodying the highest expression, which is love, you know. And even that can become a construct, right? Like some people, a nihilist could really thrive during this time and get by unscathed, right? Whereas like the spiritual person that believes it's all love and light but doesn't know how to like take action, you know, gets fucked over because they created a belief it's all love, and that AI is not love, and that Trump is not love, and just like, I'm just gonna move to the West Coast. I'm just gonna move the Pacific West because I'm moving to Bali. And it's like, you know, there is no clear spiritual or religious way through this. It's really just about knowing your value systems and creating with it. And when you're truly channeling what's true in your heart, ain't nobody got time to be looking over other shoulders and going, hey, you're not believing in the same thing I'm believing, right? I don't know if we can hang out anymore. You don't drink cacao. Hey, where's your where's your hippie gear? You know, like, do an astrology one. What do you mean you don't believe Ophiuchus is real? Oh, you're so programmed. You know, the whole, there's a 13th zodiac and that whole thing. It's like, if you're bringing true grounded positivity to this world, like you actually have the physical credentials to show for it. Like, you actually know like how to create results. Like, live and let live with the belief system, the value system, because that's what it comes down to. Because like, we're stepping into all this air and fire energy with the outer planets. So what is that? Air and fire, it's shit talking. It's just fucking shit talking. And I know people thought, what do you mean? We've already been seeing that. Just wait. The uninitiated spiritually will just talk shit till the end of their days, right? And just, which is really sad because it's rooted in poor me syndrome and victimhood of not knowing how to initiate and actually like know how to like harness thoughts, harness the wind, harness our inspiration, our creativity, that spark within ourselves. So in essence, this is really just about knowing what your kingdom is and what you're creating in that, but it's not being that king that's like has sour thoughts, that queen that's like, they're not in the kingdom, fuck them, or fuck that land, or, you know, we got to protect our own. It's more like what you give your attention to on like more of a normal everyday basis. And if you do that, anything that is outside of that that comes in can actually be a positive surprise. It can be a bonus. It can be the surprise visitor, the surprise thing that you didn't see and weren't paying attention to and didn't see coming, that's actually a gift and a reward. But if we go into these like negative mindsets and negative vibrations, we end up sabotaging because we create so much friction and low vibes in ourselves and pride and anger and ego that, you know, that's the biggest thing right now is ego. It's like we shut ourselves off from the divine and we say, no thanks, I got it. And there's not a single person here that doesn't need some divine connection to help them, lead them in a direction that is meant to be. So believe it or not, I'm channeling the astrology here. I'm like just seeing everything in the stars, even though I'm not mentioning the technical side. So those links will be down below if you want to do some work. Appreciate you all. See you guys next time.